What's up, everybody? Max Scoville here for Destructoid. Let's see, what's new? Did you guys hear about that Metal Gear Solid 5 Ground Zeroes game? If you've been reading Destructoid.com, you might have seen the slew of articles I put up about it. I figure I would tell you guys a little bit about it and really just kind of go over stuff that people were asking about in regards to my previews. Also, we've got some fun new gameplay footage of Snake shooting his own helicopter down. Roll the clip! Okay, so in a nutshell, Metal Gear Solid 5 Ground Zeroes is the prologue to Metal Gear Solid 5. The bulk of the game is going to be Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain. We don't know when that's coming out. That's a little bit of ways. That's apparently got a lot of other crazy stuff happening in it, but Ground Zeroes is pretty much this small chunk. It's about Big Boss, and he's going to rescue Paz and Chico from this mysterious base where they're being held by this organization called the XOF. The game is set about a year after Peace Walker, so if you haven't played that, this might not make a whole lot of sense to you, and if you have played that, it still might not make a whole lot of sense to you because it's Metal Gear. In terms of gameplay, the big new thing here is that it's becoming an open world game. Metal Gear has always been kind of wide in terms of gameplay, but this is the first time that they're like, go nuts! So with this huge change come a whole lot of other changes to kind of the basic systems of how Metal Gear works. I would say this is the biggest overhaul to the kind of the basic mechanics of you know, being a tactical espionage super spy since the jump between Metal Gear Solid 1 and Metal Gear Solid 2. Metal Gear Solid 2 introduced a ton of new stuff. You could throw shit, you could you know, go inside lockers, you could do somersaults, you know, you could shoot things in first person. In the case of Ground Zeroes, some of those features have actually been removed. It's actually been kind of streamlined and stripped down, and it bears a lot more of a similarity to Western games, which is upsetting for a lot of hardcore fans, I know, but it's, again, it's a video game. It's one of those things you really kind of have to judge for yourself when you get your hands on it. So that being said, probably the biggest overhaul is the change to the health system. Snake's kind of had regenerative health since Metal Gear Solid 3. This is like kind of straightforward. If you hide behind cover for a few seconds, your health will start to come back, and there's actually no health gauge. When you start getting shot, you'll see like burned film around the edge of the screen. To go with that, there's also a change to the item system. They've all been kind of mapped to the D-pad as opposed to having the kind of you know, dual scrolling inventory menus as the old games have had. Really big omission that pisses me off, and I really doubt this will be the case for the Phantom Pain. There's no cardboard box. I asked about this, they said no. I think the idea with Ground Zeroes is really just to introduce players to the kind of bare bones, kind of bread and butter mechanics of being Snake. This is a great jumping on point if you've never played a Metal Gear game before, because it will feel familiar to anyone who has played a third-person shooter. Not all the changes to the mechanics are, you know, for the worse. There are some things that have been kind of, you know, removed and changed, but I'm actually quite a fan of. One, for instance, Snake has an ability to dive to crawl. He's had this in I guess in Snake Eater, you could sort of, you know, hold your crouch button while you're running or something, and you do this sort of somersault thing, and then you'd wind up in a crawl. In this case, it's entirely fluid. Snake can also sprint now. You do that by pressing down on the left stick. It's not stealthy. Guards will chase you and yell at you and shoot you if you do that too much, but if you know your way around the mission, it can be a huge advantage. There's also a lot more climbing to go with the new kind of open playing field here. It's not like free running, you're not Ezio or anything like that, but if you know, get up to the side of a roof, you can maybe pull yourself up there and peek around. Then of course there are vehicles. Vehicles are good, right? Yes, they are. Pretty basic means of driving. You know, it's like right trigger accelerates, left trigger reverses, and then the rest is pretty much basic steering. Guards will cruise around in jeeps. You can fit an extra 3 passengers in there if you're trying to rescue prisoners. There's also the truck. Previous Metal Gear games, you could hide in the back of a parked truck and it would maybe drive you to a different place. In this case, you can sneak up on the truck while it's you know, waiting with its engine running and jump in the back and let it take you somewhere. There's some anti-aircraft guns. Of course, you've got a helicopter, which really isn't so much a vehicle as it is a means of kind of exiting the level. You call in the chopper to come and land, and you know, you can put your prisoners, your rescue people on board, and you can climb on yourself, or you can just climb on yourself if you're having a rough time. There's of course an APC. Yeah, it's got a gun on it. Another big change is the removal of traditional radar. Now it's more like Far Cry 3 or Assassin's Creed, where you kind of have to look through your binoculars or your crosshairs and sort of tag enemies. And once you've kind of stared at them long enough, a little flag will appear above their head, and then you can track them from wherever they are on the map. This might be one of those things that sounds like it makes the game way too easy, I would say maybe playing on normal, it is a little bit less of a challenge, but when you're playing on hard, it's not there at all. So if you're one of the hardcore people, it's okay. It's still a challenge. Another concern that people have with the difficulty is this new thing called reflex mode, which upon discovery by a guard or an enemy or whatever, Snake will go into slow motion bullet time to kind of imitate the reflexes of a super spy. People are concerned this makes it way too easy because you just suddenly down like 3 guards. In reality, it really doesn't make that much of a difference, and the more you use it, the less points you have at the end of the mission. So yeah, speaking of points, that's something worth noting. We've been told that there are side missions, and I thought that would mean like you're on the battlefield, and then you, I don't know, meet some guy, and he's like, hey, can you go find me 5 bullet casings? It's not like that. The side missions are really closer to VR missions, and they're kind of new challenges using the same map. Enemies are laid out differently. In the Phantom Pain, we're supposed to see a full weather cycle and day and night and all this kind of crazy dynamic stuff. In Ground Zeroes, the basic Ground Zeroes mission is a dark and stormy night. Other missions will have totally different time of day and weather conditions. One of them I played, it's broad daylight. After playing the Ground Zeroes one, where you can sneak around in shadows and hide in puddles, and you're super stealthy, kind of just showing up at the base, and it's 3 in the afternoon, and guards are like, man, I feel great right now. It's really, oh, shoot that guy. Another thing that's ruffling a lot of people's feathers is there's no boss fight in here. Kojima's known for his amazing boss fights in games, but alas, there's nothing like that in Ground Zeroes, and that's making a lot of people be like, I hope there's bosses in the Phantom Pain. I think there's going to be bosses in the Phantom Pain. We've already seen them. We've seen a trailer with all of them in it. We've seen people cosplaying as them, for God's sake. There's controversy surrounding them. Overall, I know there's a lot of concern, a lot of hesitation about Ground Zeroes, but I want to just kind of drive home the fact that it's really, really fun, and it's $30. It's not being presented as like a full entry in the Metal Gear series. It's a prologue to the next one, and it's something to whet our appetite. The demo disc that came with Metal Gear Solid 2, that came packed in with Zone of the Enders, let's be honest, Zone of the Enders was a full-price game. How many people paid full price for that because they wanted the demo disc? There's also this whole kind of confusion about the length of the game, which is very silly. It's not a 2-hour game. It's a series of missions that can be kind of mastered and perfected, and you get a score at the end. You get ranked, and then there's an online leaderboard thing, so you can compete with your friends. And there's a second screen app, so you can keep track of your stats. I know a lot of hardcore Metal Gear fans have played through the series repeatedly and gotten all the crazy ranks and stuff. This is a game that allows you to do that, and while you're doing it, you're effectively practicing for the next game while they're working on it. So anyway, in spite of its shortcomings, I'm very excited about Ground Zeroes. That comes out March 18th on PS4, Xbox One, PS3, and 360, and it's $30 across the board, except for the last gen versions digitally, which are $20. So, keep an eye open for that. Please go below in the video information description thing and click on the links to the stories I wrote using actual words. They sent me to actually do that for once. I never write things. I'm always just on a video talking with my mouth like an idiot. This has been me rambling off the top of my head. If I'm incoherent, I apologize. Go read my articles. And on that note, watch my other videos. I'm Max Scoville. Over and out.